You are an active buyer in the market.
Mm-hmm.
What is your experience right now?
Okay, I'm not going to start the craziness again, but what I will say is that for certain pockets of certain homes in the city of Toronto, freehold specifically, offer dates are back.
Get out of here.
Offer dates are back, and there was one yesterday in East York, got 61 offers. In this interest rate environment, it sold over $1 million.
Welcome to the Tom Storey Show with Steve Karrasch and Tom Storey, where we discuss everything real estate or whatever else is on our minds. Let's do a live read and then go into it.
All right. Welcome back to the Tom Storey Show. This week, you are stuck with Steve and Tom. There is no guest this week. And if you're watching on YouTube, yes, me and Steve called each other this morning and we coordinated that we would each wear a white shirt. So welcome back to the show. We appreciate all of you that are here. If you're watching on YouTube, please give this video a big fat thumbs up. That means that other awesome people like you will get to see our content. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please do so. Our goal is still to get to 1,000 people by the end of the year. And I think we can do it even faster than that.
We're coming close. We're close.
We're getting close. And on the audio platforms, if you like what you're listening to, if you give us a rating on Apple Podcasts, we'll be forever indebted to you. So welcome back to the show. I'm Tom. This is Steve, and we just talk about real estate. Steven.
And this episode of the Tom Storey Show is brought to you by Masters Academy, hosted by Richard Robbins International, November 14th and 15th. And I actually have here that it's in North Toronto. I've been to the event center. I know it is the Universal Event Space, Tom Storey, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, it is. Universal Event Space in Vaughan.
Such a good professional commercial read. But realistically, this is the place where people should be if you are a real estate agent in Canada, November 14th and 15th. This is an in-person seminar. We're talking, I think it's 1,000-ish agents all in one room, learning from the best on how we can provide better experiences to our clients and run our businesses better. So if you use the link down below in the description right now, you can get our special, wonderful discount and then immediately have access to the in-person event, which includes things like Small Giants. If you don't know what that is, it's a small actionable idea that is really quick and you can easily implement into your business to make it better. Lightning rounds, which are a version of the same thing, but a little bit more in-depth. Genius interviews. So, realistically, a high-producing agent put on the spot, and Rich does a really good job of putting the spotlight on whatever their superpower is, so you can learn a little bit about that. And also in the brochure, I see something called tool time, meaning that's where we do the work and actually take notes and do things like business plan in order to make our businesses better, which is why we're all here, hopefully to service our clients and make our businesses better. Tom, take it away.
Yeah, $200 off using the link in the description. Both Steve and I will be there. I'm very much looking forward to it. I look forward to it every single year, and the fact that we are back in person makes it even more fun. Masters Academy by Richard Robbins, November 14th and 15th. We would love to see some of our viewers there. Steven, guess what?
Yes, what?
Stats Canada put out a report. When you fill out your survey, you have to legally, like the census, you have to legally do it. You have to do it.
That.
Well, I hope you did, because I think it's like against the law not to. Look, I'm knocking on your door.
Somebody in my house may have.
Someone filled it out. Well, it's come out, and this is the 2021 numbers, right? Because they collected it all, and now they put out the report. And they have said that Canada's home ownership rate fell. It fell in the latest 2021 census release. Is that initial headline surprising to you, or does that kind of make sense to you?
I thought I read that it went up, but just not as quickly as rentals went up. Is that so? Read me more. Don't just headline this, Thomas.
Well, they're comparing it to the last census that they did 10 years ago. They're comparing it to 2011. And so I'll read you a bit more here and we'll go through it together. Canada's home ownership rate is on the decline, with young adults in particular less likely to own a home in 2021 than they were in 2011, says Statistics Canada. Now, when I hear that, the first thing that goes through my mind is, what was the average price of a home in Canada in 2011 and what is the average price today? And then I would push that against, well, what was the average income in 2011 and what is the average income today? And without having these numbers directly in front of me, I think it's probably fair to say that the house price has gone up faster than the income. And that's probably playing a part into why the ownership rate is actually down a decade on from what it used to be.
Yeah. I mean, it's got to be that, right? Like, it's just getting more expensive. I don't know. I'd be interested to see how the population grew if I was looking at these numbers, because sure, cities are growing, but are we bringing supply to the market? Something else that has happened in that same amount of time, though, is we have gone from, I mean, when I got into the business 2008, most people still were like, I'm not buying strata. Right. Most people were still like, I only want to buy single family detached homes. And I mean, they were having a tough time at that point doing that. So now I think also what has shifted is just the overall sentiment about what we find acceptable to live in. Right. But this is you and me talking, obviously, from the two biggest cities in the country. Right. Like, we have a different perspective, I think, than so much of the country does on exactly what a home should be or an affordable home is.
So here's a few more numbers. According to the latest census release, 2/3 of Canadians owned a home in 2021. So 66% of everyone in Canada, and I'm assuming they're saying over 18. I'd have to look at where that starts. Owned a home in, so 66%, 2/3 of the country own their home.
Okay.
Now, that was down from the peak a decade earlier of 69%. So we are down 3% in home ownership for Canadians from 10 years ago. Kind of interesting. I mean, makes sense with where the prices have gone, right? In
so
different
the peak
markets.
Was 2011 or 10 years before that?
No, it was 2011. 69% home ownership was the peak, is what they're saying in this article.
Okay. So my understanding is that pretty much keeps in line with what we've always known, which is two-thirds of Canadians own ish, give or take. And then half of those people, so 1/3, are pretty much mortgage free. So about 1/3 of Canadians have mortgages and about 1/3 of Canadians rent. I think these are not like staggering. Is 2 or 3% a big deal? I don't know that it is.
Well, I don't know what the 10 years before that was. Like, maybe it had grown in the previous 10 years to the 2011 numbers. And now they're saying, well, I don't think overall 3% is much of a headline, but saying you know how the news works. If it's down, they're going to say it declined, right? And it did. Mathematically, it did decline 3%. Now, is that changing that much? I would actually argue that if you look at how much home prices have gone up versus income, it should have declined more than 3%. Right? In terms of just math.
You would think.
You would think. Now, they said the decline in home ownership rates between 2011 and 2021 was the largest for younger Canadians, with the rate falling to 36.5% of Canadians between 25 years old and 29-year-old own a home in Canada, 36.5%. Where it used to be 44.1%.
I think this has absolutely nothing to do with affordability, or very little to do with affordability.
Okay.
I think this has a lot to do with what those people in those time frames value. Right? Like, you would have kids today. I feel like such an old geezer, but like, they just don't value that as being a good thing. And there's a lot of guys, girls out there that are 25 to 29 years old. Of course they don't live or have their own property because they're still living off of mom and dad sitting at home. So I don't think that is a statistic that really reflects house prices being a problem. I think it's what our society values. Now, let me go back in my time machine about, when I turned 16, the first thing you had to do was have a car. Like, that was my only thing that mattered to me. That was it. How many 16-year-olds do you know now that even care about getting their license?
Well,
Right?
in where I live in Toronto, you don't really need it because of
Yeah,
Uber and TTC and buses everywhere, and it would be more annoying to drive somewhere and try to find parking than just to take public transit.
totally. So
Yeah.
the people don't value the same things. And I don't think home ownership is valued because what do young people say right now? You used to at, 21, 22 years old, be married and you're like, okay, we're having a kid next year and we need a house now. And people aren't even getting married now till 35 years old or maybe older and not having kids till 40. So they just don't value the same thing. And I think from a real estate agent's point of view, um, I think it's easy to victimize the cost as being the result of that number declining and not other factors.
I think it's lifestyle. It's changing a mindset depending on where you live in Canada as well. And this is like a very limited example, but I live in the city of Toronto. A lot of my friends are now married, right? Like I'm 31 years old. A lot of my friends just got married in the last few years. We're just starting to have kids, where many of my other friends I went to university with that are living in areas outside Toronto, in the burbs and in communities. They were married 5, 6 years ago and they've got 3 kids and we're the same age. So I think it depends specifically on where you live. And with Canadian data, if we're using just population wise, how many people live in Canada, sorry, how many people live in Ontario, how many people live in BC, these more
Yeah.
expensive markets where it doesn't seem, things are just, it's not weird to not get married now till you're in your 30s. It's fine to have a kid in your 30s, where maybe the generation before that wasn't so much a thing.
Yeah. I don't
Right.
know. Call me an old soul, but I mean, my kids turn 18. I want them out the door.
Well,
But like, when do people now become adults? And what do they value at that point? I don't think most people think of 18-year-olds anymore as adults.
This episode of the Tom Storey Show is brought to you by the Real Estate Video Course. Today's real estate industry has changed, and you can no longer rely primarily on door knocking, cold calling, and geo-farming. While these strategies still work, video provides something that these traditional methods just don't, and that is leads that reach out to you because of you and the message and content that you are providing. I believe that video is king, and that through video, you can leverage your message, create stronger relationships, and become the authority on real estate in your marketplace. The Real Estate Video Course is a 5-part course that will teach you the fundamentals of video, including why it's so impactful, the equipment that you need to invest in to get started, and the proven tips and strategies used to ensure long-term success. So go to videocourselogin.com today to become a true creator, level up your editing and production skills, and develop your real estate video plan to leverage your message to current and prospective clients. That's videocourselogin.com. The link is below in the description, and don't forget to use the discount code TOMSHOW at checkout for 10% off any purchase. That's videocourselogin.com and use the checkout code TOMSHOW. That's TOMSHOW.
no. And even, it's funny, I went on CTV last night and I spoke about this. And the anchor, when she brought up the 25 to 29-year-old, she's like, doesn't that seem like kind of not surprising at all that people in that age range don't own like they used to? And I'm like, yeah. She's like, we should probably look at the next group, which is like 30 to 39. And that age group decreased as well, but very, very insignificantly in the last 10 years in terms of home ownership, right? So, I think maybe that's part of it. And also, if you look at, now I know this is only 2 years of data, right? But if you look at the last 2 years, what the pandemic did for the mindset of a lot of people in that younger generation, and it changed the course of maybe their life, where they're like, this is a thing that I was told I was supposed to do. And you know what? Now I can go move to Nova Scotia, find someone, fall in love with them there. That's where I live now. I can have a job remotely. Things that used to be important, a lot of people realize were maybe not as important as they thought they were going through the last 2 years.
Have you yet thought, I mean, I know you're a fairly newer dad than I am. Have you thought yet about when your kids leave the house, if they stay local or if they move, And if they did move, would you follow them? Because I mean, do you have much more going on in life? I mean, I think I'm gonna pick whichever kid I like the best and follow them wherever they go. Probably is going to be that we're gonna do, right? Like, I don't know. Like, I don't want my kids in the house, but I want to see them more than just Christmas, right? So if they pick up and move to Edmonton or Calgary, I won't follow them to Moose Jaw, but like if they move to one of those places, even Campbell River on Vancouver Island or Victoria, am I going to follow them? There's a really good chance I will, right?
Well, I can tell you now, being a new dad, like the fact that my parents and my partner's parents are close for the grandkid has been like awesome. Like awesome.
Yeah.
It's been amazing having people around and seeing them, and I see my own parents more than I used to, because, well, I mean, it's not that they want to see me. They want to see the baby. But yeah, it's a good question. I certainly have not thought that far, but you'd think like, okay, when you get to the point in your life when maybe you're retiring, slowing down a little bit, it's like, what is the most important thing? It would be being close to family, right? Yeah, I would probably follow
you would think,
my kids.
And I could see a very good chance of my kids feeling like, I could only imagine where we're going to be in 20 years from now, and the costs in Toronto and Vancouver at that point. And then, do they look at going other places? And there's a very good chance that they will, and that there will be a lot of real estate transactions in this next 20 years of people following their kids.
Well, what I've thought about too, and this was even before I became a dad, because I have been investing in real estate, is like when my son turns 18 or 22 or whatever it is, right? It's like, I don't want to hand him a keys to a car he doesn't need. I want to say, hey, this condo I bought or property that I bought before you were born, it's pretty much paid off now. Do you want to rent it from me at a reduced rate, or I don't know what it's going to be.
I'm so happy you didn't say give it to him.
No, I'm not going to give it to him. No, I don't think that's the right mindset. But you get what I'm trying to say. It's like, mathematically, not financial advice, my money putting into that, letting the mortgage get paid down, the market does what the market does, probably going to put us in a pretty good position comparative to like an RESP or something, right? For my kid.
Yeah. And I think that most parents out there need to look. I do think it is your responsibility as a parent to get your kids thinking about property very, very early, because most kids aren't going to go in and, make some massive tech company and make millions of dollars that way. And the people that do the best in real estate are the ones that get in earliest, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
There's just too many parents that are sitting out there going, okay, well, no, little Johnny can stay at home as long as he needs to be. And that failure to launch or the failure to leave the nest is the number one thing I see people failing at, right? Think about right now, Tom, if you bought no properties, how old were you when you bought your first property?
I was 23.
Okay. I was 24, I think, maybe 25. Think about if you had not done that, saved every penny you had, and now you're trying to buy now that you have a family.
It would be very, very, very difficult.
Extremely difficult.
Yeah.
Right? So the earlier you get in, the better. And I don't think parents as a whole are doing a very good job of pushing their kids towards that. Like, even if it's at 25 years old, here's a studio, buy it, live in it for a year so you can get all your first-time home buyer and all that stuff. And if you want to go explore after that, go do that. But own that asset. And I mean, even if I don't know why you would ever move back with your parents, but even if you did that and you only had to feed that thing $200, $300, $400 a month and you're getting rent off of it, by the time you actually do meet someone, maybe you're 38 years old and you want to have a kid, but you're so much better set up, right? And I think parents are just like, well, I'm actually helping them the most by letting them stay here for free. I don't think that's the case at all. You need to prepare them for the world, right? You got to get them out there in the world as early as possible.
I had lunch last week with a highly successful real estate investor. Multiple apartment buildings owned, like very in it for the long, and their family was in it before them, and that's why they got into it and they've kept going with it. And he had asked me, okay, well, when you retire, right, how much money do you need per month to live the life that you want to retire to, right? Like, what's the amount of money you need per month, right? So let's say you own three properties. You got your primary residence, 2 investment properties, or whatever it is, right? So imagine there was no mortgage on it. Okay, imagine they were owned free and clear, and what would be the cash flow after the expenses that you would earn every single month, guaranteed? And it can be at today's rent, because it's going to be somewhat relative to what things are going to cost for things in the future as well, right? Like, you can kind of put that into it. So let's say your number is $10,000, right? Let's just do a nice clean number. I want to make $10,000 a month in my retirement every single month. Okay. So I own 3 properties, and currently right now, in this example, I'm getting $5,000 a month in rent after expenses if all of these properties were fully paid off. Okay. Because I'm going into the future when this time would happen.
Yep.
Okay. So what do I need to do between now and then? Because, mortgages do end at some point, right? Right. As long as you're paying down the principal, let's make that clear. Hopefully. Yep. What do I need to get to put myself in a position that I can happily retire based on the income that is being generated by these properties if they were paid off? So what's your number? I don't know. It could be different for everybody.
I know the answer to that.
It's probably 20% more than what you think it is, by the way.
But you better start now.
That's what I'm trying to get across. Who cares about what happened this year? Who cares? Like, if you really don't believe in the long-term growth of the Canadian economy and the markets that you're investing in, then don't buy real estate. That's fine. That's fine. If you believe in it and you can think further than a year from now, and you're not just going to liquidate when things aren't great for a moment in time, you're going to put yourself in potentially such a great position in the future because you didn't make a silly move or sold out of things when you thought things weren't great for a small period of time. So if you start now and you start doing that, well, what if these were, and by the way, this doesn't have to be just real estate investments. It can be other things you have in your life that generate income, just assets in general, dividends on your stocks or whatever it is. What's that number? What age do you want to get it by? And what do you have to do now? And every time you could just spend that extra $1,400 on the new iPhone because you could, because you have the money. Well, should you, or should you put that money into something else that's going to help you down the road? And I this is a very tough question. I asked him too. I said, well, life's short though. Life's short. Like, are we just doing everything now to enjoy it when my knees hurt? Or should I just go away to Spain and go live there for 2 years right now because I can do it? And real estate will be here when I get back, which I'm not doing, by the way, to be clear to my clients. But I'm like, you get where I'm going here, right? It's that between what's the future going to look like, but then also if you get hit by a bus next week, is it a waste to have that mindset now? I'd like your opinion on this because you're a lot more risk adverse than I am.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting about how you can do so well is because, doing the things I'm doing with you now, video course and this and all the different things that we've got going on. You're like, yeah, let's do it. And I'm like, wait, what about the checks and balances and this and that? And, I don't want to spend on this. I don't want to spend on that. And I am a victim of that. I'm a victim of long-term mindful thinking because all I think about is, how long is this mortgage going to take to pay down? How fast can I pay it down? All of these steps. And I don't enjoy enough of now. But I also then go, okay, is my enjoyment building that? Like, I do get some level of enjoyment doing that. And if you're going to take me and sit me on a beach, like I went to Mexico last year And I think we did 3 days on the beach. After half of the day into day one, I was like, okay, I'm done.
Yeah, I'm
What
the
else do we
same.
want to do? Right?
Yep.
Like, I just don't. And the friends we went with were like, okay, today's a beach day, tomorrow's a pool day, then we're going back to the beach day, then we're gonna go out on a boat, then the day after that's a beach day. I'm like, I don't know what to do here. Like, this is not something that interests me, right? So there are people that do enjoy building things, and I think that includes not only businesses, real estate portfolios, but like their retirement, right? Now, the thing is, those people I think also never retire.
Because they're enjoying it so much. Why would you ever
Because
actually retire?
it's
Yeah.
what they do,
But
right? They
then but
like building stuff.
but then it's okay. Well, then if you get to that point and you've got the income streams to do what you want in retirement, but then it's really like if you've got that figured out, then the rest of it is just like, well, I'm just going to do what I want to today because I've got the rest of it figured out. You don't have to retire, but you also don't have to do the things that you don't want to do if you've figured out the income side of it in the future.
Yeah. But what if the thing you want to do is do more of what you were doing
Then keep
in the
doing it.
past?
Then keep doing it. Like, I don't know. It's but you're never going to get in that position if you don't start thinking about it today.
Yeah.
But I also recognize even having that conversation with yourself is a scary thing. And where do I start and who do I talk to and who can I trust and where should I even begin this journey? You know, like I think for myself personally, like I was lucky that I was in the real estate industry and I started recognizing opportunities and I try to take advantage of some of them.
Yeah. Your ability to recognize an opportunity is probably a lot higher than other people, right? Like I think the amount, like for instance, let's talk about for a second the video course that you started.
Yeah.
You were in a lockdown and you had nothing to do, no kids yet. Did you even have a dog at that point?
I had a dog, yeah.
Yeah. So it was you and the dog going crazy and your partner. And then what?
Well, I can tell you my mindset then. So leading up to that, I would have 3 or 4 real estate agents a week ask me if I could teach them how to make better videos, right? That was
Okay. So there was like people saying like, okay, I see what you're doing. Show me how to do that. So there
Yes.
was a bit of a need. It wasn't just like, hey, I got this crazy idea.
No, there was a bit of a need that I recognized that I was answering the same questions a lot. And then when, you know, if we take ourselves back mentally to March 2020, waiting on what is an essential business and what is not an essential business, and looking at my mortgage payments and everything else I had in my life that were fixed monthly payments for life, you know, not, you get what I'm trying to say, at the moment.
Yeah.
Okay, well, what if we cannot sell houses for the next 6 months? What if they shut us down? What if they close our doors? What am I going to do? And at the time, I think the timing worked well because everyone was at home anyways.
Yeah.
I was like, why don't I just offer what everyone's been asking me and package it together? And I, you know, really no advertising, all organic, ran a free training and signed up 72 people on the first one.
Yeah. It's insane. And now if I look at like so piggybacking my course off of yours to deliver to the same audience, and then looking at how many people are in the community, I think on the Facebook page, because you can't get into the Facebook page unless you bought the course. I mean, think of everybody's like, oh yeah, real estate agents, you know, make too much money, good incomes, all that stuff. But it's like, look at the person who developed this other thing. They're probably good at real estate because they're just good at figuring out problems and fixing the problems, and real estate is just one of those vehicles in order to make an income. So now we're talking like what, 250 people,
almost 300. Yeah.
And you know, I don't want to talk about the prices of things right now, but like you do that calculation and you're like, holy crap, like there are so many people struggling out there, but are they taking that extra time they had in their day and putting it aside in order to bring something else to the world of which they will be rewarded for if there's value there?
Oh, if you're willing to start and answer a question or a problem that continues to come up in your life for other people, and you solve it for them. Yeah, the amount of additional income that you can earn doing it ethically by helping people in a way that they are asking for is truthfully, like, it was very eye-opening to me. I'm a business owner. I enjoy real estate a lot. I run a great real estate team, and I love the people that I work with, but I didn't want to be defined my whole life by just being a real estate agent. I didn't want that to be my full identity. I know that's what I am. That is what I do. That is how I make my true living. But I was like, well, why wouldn't I do some of these other things that I'm passionate about, right? So started with a 6-week course, then it became an online only course. Then we just did one in person, and we didn't even sell tickets publicly.
That was insane.
We just sold tickets to the people that were already in it, sold it out in like 2 weeks, filled a room, and that was like so much fun.
And at some point it's like, okay, how much do we charge for this? Like, here's our costs. And we did it basically to cover cost, right? When you did the calculation, it covered cost. But then people leaving that room were like, oh yeah, I got way more value than the whatever $199 that you charged me to be in this room.
Yeah.
Right. Because those people can take those ideas, put them into their daily business life, and then provide value to their clients and make a ton more money. Right. And it's just, I'm so impressed with kind of how this whole thing has come around, because I never thought, my whole business model previous to lockdown was just dial my clients, make sure they're doing okay, answer any questions they have about real estate, ask them if they know anybody else that's, selling real estate. And now that a third of my business is coming from like video, because of being associated to, basically you. Now, here's the difference though. I was doing video. I found videos of me, by the way, they're out there. I don't know if I should say this. They are out there from 2010.
Go to Steve's channel and go to like date added and have some fun.
They are so deep. I don't know that you can ever find them because they're on a completely different channel. But they are out there. Maybe we should bring one out and we should go over it and be like, this is where I started in video.
Yeah.
But like to go from that to go to where we are now is just, it's crazy. It's crazy to think that there's that many people out there that weren't getting serviced by anybody else, giving them the value that they're looking for. And now those people are reaching out. And so many of them are reaching out because, basically what we've developed now is you and me just chatting about, hey, this is a better way to reach more people. This is a better way to reach more people, constantly back and forth. And then we just took that conversation and now it's a podcast.
Well, even, so yesterday I did a presentation. The company that I work for is all across Canada. There's like, 19,000 of us that have a license that are registered to my real estate company. I work for LePage, and they do like trainings and webinars. And they're like, hey, can you come on and talk to our group? And I was like, yeah, of course. That sounds fun. And so I had an hour to present to a bunch of other real estate agents. And before the call, it was a webinar style, so I couldn't see faces, right?
Yeah,
I could just see the other person. And I was like, what was like the attendance like for this? She's like, oh, it was our most signed up for one in a long time. I'm like, how many people signed up? She's like, almost 1,000. I'm like, what? Okay, cool. All right. And now at the peak, because sign up and show up are different because a lot of people watch the recording. Yep. But at the peak yesterday, there was 538 people watching me presenting on something, taking the time out of their day, out of their business, out of their life. And that was like kind of shocking to me.
What were you presenting on?
Just how to run a real estate business that you enjoy and how to treat your clients amazingly well so that they want to talk about you to your friends and family. It was the database talk.
Okay, cool.
Standard database talk.
Just interesting to see what the company is, what the agents are interested in looking into, right?
It was basically like what Taylor had mentioned on last week's podcast was how do you save people from 3-star experiences? It's like, how do you create a 5-star experience for your client where it is based on relationship and not transaction, and that I don't have to run around asking people, hey, would you like to buy and sell a house? It's like, no, it's like I did a good job for them. They'll tell their friends about me. That's been our business model from day one, which is very, very similar to yours.
Yeah. It has been, but I have seen a decline in that, obviously, because we couldn't see people,
Yep. Agreed.
right? And so that person, so actually, there's a bit of a segue. I did my first client referral, like get together, thank you.
Saw that.
It was so nice to see people in real life again. And one thing I discovered about myself that has changed over COVID is, man, I really enjoy a brunch now.
You're a brunch guy?
Oh, dude, we walked in there at like 10 o'clock, sat down. You get cheeses and meats and eggs Benedict on the same plate.
Uh-huh.
And it's over by 12 o'clock. I'm such a dad. I enjoyed a heck of a good brunch. It was awesome. But we got to meet those people that send us business, because that's kind of like the lifetime referral system stuff that we use to get so much business is just treating people right. And
that's all it is.
Yeah. Right.
It's doing what you say
right.
you're going to do and staying in touch with the people that fuel your business. It's not rocket science.
Yeah. And then you put on a really nice event for them that costs a crazy amount of money, which is nuts. I don't like spending money, but you do that and everything goes well. I mean, it was just so awesome. For the first time, like we always do like grand prizes. And of course we had like a 2 years of grand prizes to give away.
Right.
Because we didn't get to do that for that time. And both the people that won the grand prizes were in the room, which is nice, because usually you don't have to be there to win. And it was just so cool. And I think it really rejuvenated me to get back to, okay, I know you're meeting all these people with video, but you really got to get back to finding those people and helping those people that you already know and reach out to them. But I was also shocked at the amount of people in that room that were like, so how's Tom doing?
Really?
And I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, well, you were in Toronto this week, right? And you did a podcast with him, and how's his business going? And I'm like, you have no connection. And the one person I'm thinking of is a 65-year-old lady
who's listening, probably, right? Shout out.
Yeah, she may be listening right now, but I'm like, this is so not our demographic for these, but it is, because those people are starting to care about what else is going on out in the real estate world.
One of the things that I always talk about is how most people on anything are silently consuming it, right? They don't interact, they don't like it, they don't follow you, they don't tell you they watched it, they don't comment, and then one day they see you and be like, hey, I like that thing you're doing, and you're like, what? I didn't even know you knew I was doing it.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah. So if you're one of those people, please go ahead and like and subscribe to the channel.
There you go.
And write us a positive review, because there are negative ones out there.
No, they're mostly positive. Hey, Steve, I'm going to go back here for a second. I want to go over one more thing from that
Sure.
that
Sorry,
report.
we got sidetracked.
That was a fun convo. But we did get a little sidetracked. Hold on here. Let me get between the ads.
We are friends, so sometimes we just talk about what's going on.
Meanwhile, the renter rate increased. Statistics Canada says the number of renter households grew at more than twice the rate of owner households between 2011 and 2021. Again, like, duh, but interesting to see in legitimate stats from Stats Canada.
How much of that do you think is tied to immigration? Because I think
Perhaps
the stat is also like the average PR, new PR to the country, permanent resident for everybody else that's not in real estate, it takes like 5 years to buy.
Yeah, they're going to rent first.
They're going to rent for up to 5 years until they can, they got to build credit within the country, because a lot of countries are coming from, they don't have no credit record. They have to show income in the country for a couple of years, and usually those incomes from other countries can't be used. So all of these things build up. So if the more and more people you have come into the country, as crazy as we have been, adding like 1% of the population per year right now, of course we're going to have more renters.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. I don't think it's necessarily that something is shifting. I don't think there's a lot of people selling out of real estate and choosing to become a renter.
Unless you are at that crossroads in your life and the pandemic made you go, you know what? I don't like this job. I'm moving to this place. I'm going to rent. I'm a free spirit. So I get what you're saying in general, but I think a small percentage of maybe millennials did actually exit and just go, screw it. I don't care. I'm going to go live my life right now.
Yeah, which gets back to what we were talking about earlier. These
Yep.
kids without their damn responsibilities.
Stop. Okay.
I'm such a geezer now.
A few other ones that I wanted to share here, and then we'll move on from this report. But I do think this is like very, very interesting. Like, okay, the federal agency said that newly built homes are increasingly likely to be occupied by renters. Okay, so the new inventory we are bringing to the market, with 40.4% of new homes built between 2016 and 2011 now rented out. 40% of the homes that we built are now rental inventory. They are not homeowner personal residences.
Correct.
Why is that?
So many reasons. First of all, obviously cheap money, pandemic stuff, all that wonderful stuff. But how does a pre-sale go? How does a new construction property go?
Yeah.
You're not going to have some kid that's, let's say we're that guy, 24 years old. He's going to go put money down on a pre-sale. That guy doesn't even know what he's doing next week, let alone, this property is not going to be ready for 3.5 years. And the one you can afford is a studio apartment. By then he could be living in a different country or have 3 kids. Like, you don't know where you're going to be. So only the investors, given the current model of financing, are going to buy those properties.
And it's not just that, because that's like everything you said is true there. But the developers create floor plans based on what is the easiest to sell to an investor. The developers specifically say how good of an investment their property will be. And in my market, it's mostly all these condos, right? They literally go to the investors and go, look at the cap rate on this, or we will give you rental guarantee for X period of time at this. They're literally going after investors. They're not going after, because investors care about numbers. They care about the number. If the numbers make sense, the rest of it, fine, whatever. I'm going to buy this. I'm going to hold it. It doesn't matter. Where the end consumer is more emotional in it, and they don't like the floor plan. The investor doesn't give a crap about the floor plan as long as it's going to rent out.
Yeah. And even the risk that they take on, right? The investor, hopefully, if the investor is a good investor, can sustain a change in the market when the end user likely can't swing it if something goes wrong, right? But I think it's all timing. And if those units were sold when an end user could walk in and pay the money and it closes in 30 days,
sure,
that number would change.
Yeah, but that's just not the business model. They sell them out before, right? They sell them out before, and then we wait to see what happens.
This episode of the Tom Storey Show is brought to you by Lendlord. If you've not heard of Lendlord, it is a software platform designed for real estate investors. It helps you easily track your portfolio and get reminders when things like rent and utility payments are due. But the best feature, and my most favorite feature of the entire platform, is something called a deal analyzer. This is where you, as a real estate investor, can log into the software, plug in your future potential purchase, and the system quickly comes up with important information like cap rate, cash on cash return, and even future potential values. It's a totally free software, but listeners of the Tom Storey Show can get 90 days of the upgraded paid version right now totally for free by either clicking the link down below in the description or going to lendlord.io/TomShow. And if you're a real estate agent and you're not using this software to quickly and efficiently analyze deals for your clients, well, I think you're doing your clients a disservice. Download Lendlord today for a quick and easy way for you to analyze not only your own future purchases, but those of your clients. So again, that's lendlord.io/TomShow to sign up right now, and listeners of the Tom Storey Show receive 90 days of the paid version totally for free. I have tried this software myself. I think it's fantastic and extremely useful as a real estate investor. Sign up today. That's lendlord.io/TomShow. And now back to the podcast.
One more thing here, the median monthly shelter cost, just meaning like cost of living somewhere, for renters went up 17.6%. So it cost renters 17% more from 2016 to 2021, outpacing inflation during that time period. The consumer price index rose by 9.5% over the same period. For homeowners, the median monthly shelter cost went up by 9.7%. Okay, so almost double. Renters are now paying, the increase was almost double compared to what it was for homeowners over that period of time. But more people became renters.
Yeah, well, that's supply and demand, I would assume.
Yep.
Right? Did you see, I don't know if you just liked the video on my channel or if you actually watched it, Tom, but I put out one with a CMHC report that talked about the fees that different cities are charging in order to, for a developer to get a project started in those cities. So it is insane that the city is making something like, in some cities, city of Vancouver, something like 20% of the overall selling price of the property goes to the city. So I was like, that sounds really crazy, right? Like, there's no way. These numbers, sure, like 180 grand per unit, like that's not that. And then I was like, wait a minute, 180 grand. Let me do that times 400 units. What is that number? Like $72 million goes to the city?
Yeah.
The developer doesn't make $72 million profit off of something like that. They might make $50 million profit if they were an amazing developer, right? And I don't think they're making that much.
Not anymore. And by the way, good developers make a lot of money. Let's be clear about this. Okay, they've made a lot of money over time. But the percentage of what they're making now is they're being forced essentially to raise their prices because of all the other fees involved, especially in cities like Toronto and Vancouver. Man, oh man, oh man, are they just continuing to raise the cost of actually building these units? And where do you think that cost is being passed on to?
Yeah, like it's just saying out of memory, I don't know what it really was, but I think it was something like $170 per square foot goes to the city in Vancouver, when in Montreal, that's like $41 per square foot. So like, how much more amazing is the city of Vancouver getting buildings done? They must, that must be a much faster, easier process. And that's what the developer's paying for, right? Oh no, it's all just, tax money that's just being sucked up because it will be passed on to the end user, who's more than willing, unfortunately, to pay for it. I couldn't believe when I actually racked up the numbers. So they took like average selling price and then kind of broke it down. And yeah, it was $180,000 for the average unit and I think the average unit brand new in Vancouver is $760 or maybe $860 or somewhere in that range. So it's not like they're like these are not $4 million units, right? Just in this, I don't know how the government can keep a straight face and people can keep voting in these guys that are like, yeah, that seems reasonable. We're gonna take $72 million out of this project just for development fees.
Well, the average consumer doesn't know that.
No,
they don't know that, and for the most part, they don't care. They only care when it's going to affect them at that moment. But I don't see it. It's not. If you just look at that, you just look what the city charges to build this new inventory, which mathematically we know is needed, right? Well, it's not like, so first of all, we think building the new inventory is going to create this supply demand where we're going to meet in the middle nicely here. We're going to have enough homes for the amount of people that are coming in. But if you're just building this new inventory and it's becoming more and more expensive, it's like you can have supply, but if the demand can't afford it, it's also not going to matter. It's not going to solve anything.
The crazy part was like you think like more affordable units, like we're going for density, right? So density should be the priority. And the densest units were the most per square foot.
Right? Yeah, the smallest units cost the most per square foot, yes.
Yeah, so if it was broken down into high rise. So if you're doing a high rise, it was, again, I don't want to misquote it completely, but let's say it was $170 a foot.
Sure.
So if it's $170 a foot in a high rise, in a detached home, single family redevelopment, that might only be like $36. So if you're trying to discourage single family homes in Vancouver and get guys over to either low rise or high rise, why is high rise the highest cost to the developer? the highest cost to the end user. That should be in the other direction.
That's a good way to put it. I mean, I would assume the reason would be is because when you're building up, I mean, the cities would just see that and go like, okay, where can we make the most amount of money back?
Oh, for sure.
Right. Like that's the reason, right?
People don't like it when I call it, but I mean, what's a density fee? A density fee is a bribe to build something bigger. Right?
Well, I mean, in Toronto, you see it all the time. It's like, oh, this really beautiful park also just showed up beside this condo. It's like, yeah, because the city said you ain't building that condo unless you build that park for us as well.
You guys have this? I know we do. If you split a lot in half, you avoid the park fee. But if you put it into 3, you have to pay a park fee. And I want to say last time I checked, it was something like $17,000 or more per lot when you do that. So it's like, I know the city didn't just pay, let's call it $49,000 or whatever that math is on that towards a new park, right? You can't build a park for $49,000. So what are we really doing? Well, it's going into the slush fund. And yeah.
When we had Jordan on from Pre-Condo, he talked about this in Toronto. I'm not as well versed as him on that side of things, but the amount of money that goes into the park fund, and then you go like, okay, well, where is it? Where is it being spent?
What he brought up that I thought was interesting was you guys call it inclusionary zoning, and the new inclusionary zoning, which is meant and pushed towards more affordable housing, is more expensive. You figure the inclusionary zoning should be cheaper.
Well, it's just saying to the private sector, you want to build, fine, but then you're going to build also the affordable housing that we're not building, and you're going to be the one doing it. And also, but we're not going to pay for this. So that's going to be passed on to the purchaser of the property. And like, listen, this is a full loop. We can just keep going in circles here, right? Yeah. If you want to buy what you deem as an affordable house, probably you're not buying in Toronto or Vancouver because nothing's going to change. You think we're magically going to become affordable? Even with prices dropping off 20%, we're not affordable by any means. And that's actually been one of the most like recent comments I've seen on my YouTube videos when I'm talking about price decreases and what's happening. And because the entry level properties have actually decreased the least since rates went up, because they're still the most, again, quote unquote, affordable comparative to other properties. And I'm getting people putting in the comments like, I'm 29. I've saved up $150,000, which is like amazing. I was qualified for this. Now I'm qualified for this. Like, even though prices have gone down, I still can't afford. I still can't get in. Nothing has been solved for me, which is that first time home buyer that the government came out and said, like, we will solve your problem. Here's the list of things we're going to do that's going to solve it for you. Nothing's been solved.
But that's because GDS. Right? GDS, TDS, when you're qualifying for your mortgage, the bank is going to get 39% of your income is your qualification.
Yep.
And the cost of the property will likely just correspond with whatever interest rate makes your income 39%. Right? Yes. Like that's where we're going to end up. So if anybody is waiting for monthly costs to come down ever, stop waiting, because it's never going to happen. You're going to continue to have high monthly costs, 40% of your income for the rest of your life, or until you pay off your mortgage. It's just where it's going to be. Or if, I don't know, maybe if you move to Edmonton, according to Taylor.
Well, then your property's, well, I don't know about Edmonton in general, but there's many markets where your property doesn't go up in value, right? Like people think that Canada has just increased in value. Like a certain percentage of Canada has increased in value at a high rate. It's really greater Toronto area, greater Vancouver area over the last decade. And then in the last 2 years of the pandemic, we saw everything go like a little bit of a shit show. And now they're all coming back to earth, where we only go up in price because more people come here. That's it. That's it. Like the rest of Canada, there are many areas of Canada that are affordable, very affordable, relative to what it costs to live here.
That was the interesting thing. We should have probably talked to some of those people from those areas about like, okay, well, there was 1.5% interest rates in your marketplace. Why wasn't the market going crazy? Like those were at the end of 2020, beginning of 2021, before the market took off and went nuts. why didn't your market take off and go nuts at that time? Because it should have if interest rates were the only factor.
I don't like, it's interesting because if you look at markets outside Toronto, the smaller markets, the suburbs, you can keep going 2 hours out any direction. They increased in value in the last 2 years because the Toronto people went there. Because
Yeah.
like that's what happened. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess the interest rates, housing prices are being correlated to going up because of the low interest rates, which is just obvious, but not everywhere. You know, not everywhere did they go up. They went up in certain places a lot. And then the problem is with the Canada data is like it clumps us all into one, but we are not one. There are many different areas of Canada doing very many different things.
Well, let's talk about the most important one, which is Toronto, obviously. You are an active buyer in the market.
Mm-hmm.
What is your experience right now?
Okay, I'm not going to start the craziness again, but what I will say is that for certain pockets of certain homes in the city of Toronto, freehold specifically, good homes, good school districts, offer dates are back.
Get out of here.
Offer dates are back, and there was one yesterday in East York. It was listed at like $629. It should have been listed at probably $900. Got 61 offers. In this interest rate environment, it sold over $1 million. Now, again, it was never worth what they listed for, but the fact that the buyers are even willing to play this game again, I'm like, what?
Yeah, but that was, I mean, if it's listed at $699, it's worth $900 all day long.
I know, but it's still sold for over $1 million. It's still sold for arguably more than it was worth, you know? So the strategy worked. And I'm having like these like chills, these flashbacks of February. I'm like, no, this can't happen. How is this happening? And it's happening because there are certain areas and certain price points that people are still very active in, even though rates have gone up. And for myself personally, there was a house I was tracking. I wasn't going to offer on it, but I was like curious. I was like, this kind of adds up to what I want. Sold for $350,000 more than the asking price.
How far over market do you think that was?
100 over what it should have sold for.
So now in this market, like nobody's attempting that in my market. Nobody's going to like, hey, we're going to underlist this on purpose. That is just not happening.
It's back for us for free, because the inventory is not here. We were all expecting this flood of inventory. It never happened. There's not a bunch of homes available because sellers are going, okay, well, if I can't get this price, I'm not going to list. And there's that zone of that happening. And then the fall market. So less properties hit the market, but the buyers are ready to rock again at higher interest rates, obviously. And
so is the Toronto real estate market back, or is this a bull trap?
I have no clue. All I know is I hope it's not. I hope it doesn't go back to what it was. I hope we can find some type of middle ground here, because if it goes back, and I'm not saying even price, it can't, to get to price from earlier this year, it's going to be very, very difficult.
Yeah.
But action, interest, people just doing it. Yeah. Like I've seen this before, and I don't know if it's a moment in time or if things will cool off again, but this year has just been so weird. How do we make sense of this year?
Oh, there's no making sense of this year.
But then, but I said that last year because I was like, this is too crazy. This is also not normal. And then 2020 was so weird too. I'm like, we've had 3 years in a row of such unpredictable behavior, and we're almost going to end up back where we were at the beginning. Like in terms of, it's like maybe these from March 2020 to the end of this year, I wonder if we remove that from all the data graphs.
Yep. Very good possibility. We're not even close to that yet. We're still only like November of last year prices.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I could see that happening. That's definitely happened with my stock portfolio, right? Like we've taken off so much of that chunk that was there because everybody had money to spend. People were borrowing money. Why wouldn't you borrow money at 1% to top it in the market and get a 6% dividend off of that, right? But I don't know, like when you started telling me that, and then we went into multiple offers the other day on one of our listings.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it didn't go crazy. It didn't go unconditional or none of that stuff. But I was like, holy smokes. multiple offers are back. And then a couple of the team members are like, yeah, our buyers were looking at properties and those went multiples. And I'm like, wait, there's no way this can come back.
Well, and that's the problem that I hesitate. And I did put out a video recently saying kind of what I'm seeing on the ground level. And most people in the comments were like, no, shh. If you say this, they'll just keep raising the rates even faster. Not like it matters what I say, but you get what I mean. The general consensus is that people are picking up real estate again because they're interested in buying it. And these are end users, by the way. Like these are people that are going to live there.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll leave it there because I don't want to make an assumption on this because it's such a small little sample size. But sellers aren't listing if they can't get their price, and then there's not enough listings.
So that's the interesting part we're seeing right now is inventory is dropping, and inventory is actually dropping very quickly. Now, the difference is a lot of the time right now, those listing drops are terminations, cancellations, expiries. Some of them are sales, but inventory is dropping again. If we go back to a spot where at the beginning of next year, we're only down to 2,500 listings when the clock ticks over, right? Like we were at 1,300 last year, and that's why it went insane. A healthy market for us is 6,000. And right now, we only got up to 6,300, and right now we're at 5,400. So we're riding that slide back down on inventory. And there are a lot of people that are just going, yeah, if I don't get those prices, I'm going to take it off the market and sit. And that might bring the market back.
Oh, God. I mean, like, can there never just be a moment of, like, relaxingness here? That made no sense. But, come on. Why do we have to have these swings? Why can't we just chug along nicely? Why does it have to
Is
be
it
like
maybe
this?
Information is too quick to come out now,
Yes.
maybe?
Yeah, and
Right.
the fact is, news isn't gonna pick up a story that a house got 61 offers. Well, maybe they will because that's such an outlier.
But we have
You're gonna hear about this in 3 months. You're gonna hear about
have
this
a-
in 3 months from
we have a
the.
Canadian market now, right? We have at this point, it's a world market. Everybody's doing the exact same thing we're doing right now. Where it used to be, I think, a little bit more dependent. Like the big crash in Toronto was the early 90s, right? The big
Yep.
crash. We saw a crash in the early 90s in Vancouver and BC, I guess, but nothing like you guys saw. Everybody here still talks about the big crash being 1981, where property values doubled in 1 year went up 40% and then down 40% within a 24-month period. So that's, I think, kind of what we're still comparing to, but it's happening on a world scale. It's not like, hey, things kind of suck here, so maybe we can move there, right? It's a different, maybe that's happening a little bit with Alberta right now, but I don't think it's happening anywhere else. I think it kind of stinks everywhere.
I saw a stat, and this was an American-based company, so, but it was basically like recession doesn't necessarily mean property values drop. I think it was like 3 out of the last 5 recessions, property values have actually gone up. But obviously, the one where they dropped the most was the 2008, which is clear, and there was a lot of factors into why that happened. I don't know. What has happened isn't going to change my long-term mindset and what I understand and what I believe in. And if you're on the other side of it and you think the market's going to crash, great. I hope it does for you. I hope you get what you're looking for out of this. Yeah. I hope it does. Fine. Fine. To think any of us have any type of actual power to influence anything is laughable. So I'm just going to live my life, and the market's going to be the market. I'm going to do what I can do. And regardless of who's in government or who's making decisions, I'm not going to let that impact me mentally. I'm just going to do what I need to do.
Are you saying that Tom Storey Show does not influence the Canadian real estate market? Because I disagree.
I think it maybe influences some consumer decisions, actually, without us knowing. But to think we have any dent in the actual numbers, I don't think we're quite there yet. Well, you know how we get there? We got to get to 1,000 subscribers.
Because people can like and actually, you know what? Yes, please like and subscribe. We would love to get to 1,000 subscribers. There is something that's happening in the comments consistently now, other than the trolls, that we would like to work on, which is very difficult for us to work on, and it's just a time constraint, which is people are asking for chapter selection on the YouTube videos. And putting those in is so time consuming. Unfortunately, right now, it is not something that we can really do very well and effectively. If there's anybody listening to this that ever wants to send me what you think are cool chapter selections for each episode, I will post them in the comments. I will change them afterwards. But it is just so time intensive to go back. I would have to go back, listen to every single episode, timestamp it, and title it, and it would be very difficult.
Also, if there's anyone watching or listening that knows of a program that can do a pretty decent job at auto captioning, and by the way, YouTube's not doing it for our videos. We have that turned on. They can't figure out exactly what we're saying. Or can solve our problem and can come to us and send us an episode with it already done. Like, we'll pay you. We'll pay you if it's the right service. If you can find a solution for us, we're happy to bring you in and kind of get you involved here. So yeah, I think thanks for bringing that up, because that is something that has been more consistent in the YouTube side of things. People want to jump around and listen to what they want to listen to.
We would love to try and fix that, but it's just...
We will. Like, we're actively going to fix that. We just need to find a solution. And right now, me and Steve are running very active real estate businesses on top of doing this and having families. And
we need a super fan to step up. Maybe we can do that. I also am hoping that one day somebody can give us some decent intro music and different things like that. But we don't know how to do any of that. I definitely don't know how to do most of that stuff. So we are patching it together as we go along. But we appreciate everybody that likes and subscribes on YouTube and on Apple Podcasts and Spotify.
All right, let's wrap this episode up. Steve, final thoughts for the listeners?
If you are this deep, you probably care. I'm interested in possibly when I come back in November 13th, Tom, if we want to do, instead of an episode that day, maybe a live episode in our regularly scheduled time slot, or maybe an hour later because it might be too early. But on a Sunday morning, if people want to hear that, or you would watch it, and you want us to schedule a special event rather than just tossing it up like we did last time because we just happened to be in the room, let us know in the comments, because I think we could have a little bit of a fun event and maybe get some more people onto a live stream and answer your questions like an AMA, right? I'm thinking like very specific questions, not just scooter jokes all the time, and like ask about certain things and we can respond back to those.
Two final things here. I think that we are going to create an email for the show that you guys can reach out to us with your questions or concerns or anything, so that we can go through like a mailbag type thing. I think that would be fun to answer questions live on the show. And then in the future, if enough of you are interested and you think it will be something that you'd like to see, maybe we do one of these live. Maybe we get an audience and we do one. No, seriously, like, we have enough viewership. Maybe. Yeah, I know you're laughing. Like, a lot of people listen and watch this, and I think if we could get together and have a fun day with everybody and do a live podcast, that's something I'd be totally down for.
Since we're tacking that on too, if you think there's anybody we should have on, or if you want to bug people that you think we should have on, go comment on their stuff and say, hey, have you heard of this ridiculous show with these two guys? And let them know that maybe they should come on, because we're always looking for new guests, and we want to make sure we're getting people that you're interested in as well, not just people that we're interested in. I want to find out who else is out there, because I'm finding new people on the YouTube space every single day that are doing this. But I mean, coming on soon, we're going to have an actual friend and client of mine coming on, which is going to be really, really cool, right? So I just want to try and expand this conversation and expand the audience, make everybody happy.
Our next guest, actually, I'm not going to give anything away. We're going to end this here, and then we'll pick it up next show, because we've got some cool people coming on. I'm excited for everybody. So thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Have an amazing day. Bye.
Peace out.